What a great question. I will tell you that the pat answer that so many say is, yeah, inadequate supply side voltage kills FICMs, and they're not wrong. The fact of the matter is that Ford's got a TSB, a technical service bulletin, that says that if your FICM sees less than 11 volts, I want to say for like more than a minute they publish, or less than 9 volts for more than like 5 seconds or some such, that neck of the woods anyway, I slept since then, sorry, that certain FICM damage occurred. And, that's not wrong. The issue, the really huge issue, the major issue, isn't actually, because after you start your truck, you're at like, 11.9, 12, 12.1, which is above, Ford's 11 volt threshold. The problem is that the stock alternator that's 110 amp that only does 75 amps at cold idle, it spends its life playing the little engine that could, playing the I think I can game, and it just burns itself out. And so what happens is the regulator gets trounced, and when the voltage regulator gets trounced, then it just makes a bad problem worse, because when an alternator is charging and yet bad, not sending clean power out to the electronics suffer. So the ECM is looking for voltage in a given range. The FICM is looking for a voltage in a given range. The instrument cluster is even looking for a voltage in a given range. And when it sees spikes, when any of these things see spikes, then all of a sudden they're like, holy buckets, wait a minute, what do we got going on? And so even if you live in like a South Texas, like a Corpus Christi, or you live in a Miami or something like that, where you guys are smarter than us Midwest guys and you don't know what cold weather is, I would say that our 185 amp alternator does 135 at cold idle is a very reasonable solution for you. It just doesn't get cold enough, long enough to spend more than that, unless you're running, a winch or some crazy sound system or something like that. The northern folks, though, folks that live in like your Minnesotas and Jerseys and upstate New York and Iowa and places like that, where it is chilling, bone chilling cold, on the regular, you see 0 degrees and you think it's a heat wave. Yeah, those places, you want a bigger alternator. Now, how big? I would say the how big varies widely on just how cold does it get. If you're seeing constantly negative 40 Fahrenheit or negative 40 Celsius, just saying, you want a big bad boy alternator, and you want to be plugging your truck in just anyway, if at all possible, to save your high pressure oil pump and running a lighter weight oil and everything else. But recognize that alternators last as a direct result of what's asked of them, just like batteries, actually. So the more you ask of an alternator as a percentage of its capacity, the more you're going to have a problem. And recognize that, if your alternator is spending its life just pushing itself, you're going to fry it. And when the voltage regulator goes, a whole lot of times, like we're talking over 90% of the time in our experience, the alternator is still charging it, the regulator is bad. And so your only way of knowing, and it really doesn't even, you don't even get to knowing, you get to, a level of confidence, but not certainty, that your alternator is good or bad, is you throw it in the kitchen oven when mama's not looking, 225 for an hour, which is not 400. Let's be smart about this. All you're trying to do is replicate the underhood temperatures that the alternator would see stuck in traffic when it's 95 degrees outside. Because just like you see the worst in your buddies or yourself when you get angry, and when you get hot, so also do you see the worst in your alternator when it gets hot. So take it up to 225 for an hour in the oven, take it out of there with some shop towels, be neighborly, tell the guy behind the parts counter, hey man, don't burn yourself, this is hot, but you tell me if it's good or not. They'll test it. And that test is about 97, 98% effective. I mean, if it tests out bad, it's definitely bad. The bummer is if it tests out good, you still don't totally know, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a fair shot. And so it's a whole lot better than nothing. But, it's time of this video. It's mid-November. Christmas is coming. I understand bills, all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you that with the cold weather comes higher hertz on things, right? So higher hertz on your high pressure oil system, more strain on your batteries, all this kind of stuff. Recognize your batteries, they're 850 commonly CCA, cold cranking amps. What does that mean? It means that at 0 degrees they can put out 850 amps. Well, at 32 degrees they can put out 1,000 amps. That's called CA, cranking amps. So wait a minute, you mean we lost 15% of our capacity because we lost 32 degrees? Yes. And so just when the batteries are having less power than they normally would, that's when you have to have the key in the on position, waiting longer for that little coil light, that wait to start light, which is inappropriately called the glow plug light. That's just when that light has to stay on longer. That's 160 amp draw. Then you engage the starter. It's a 1350 amp, inrush current to get that starter to begin spinning. 300 amps to keep it spinning if you got a 6.0 starter. 400 amps if it's a 6.4 starter. And the truck finally starts, and you think you're in high cotton, but you're not, because the glow plugs run for, well, as long as 2 minutes after ignition. So you have this 230 amp draw, that's a little spiky amp draw that's going on, that entire time that the glow plugs are cycling. And so it's just murder on the alternator, and it's super hard on batteries. So batteries last as a result of what's asked of them. They're obviously being drawn down, and the alternator lasts as a result of what's asked of it. And so it's playing the illusion of the could, trying to do the best job it can for you. And the FICM and the ECM and the instrument cluster and everything else, they're just kind of like saying, okay, I'm here, abuse me as you may. And so then what happens eventually is these modules, they just give up the ghost. And so, we repair ECMs, we repair overhead consoles, we repair instrument clusters, we repair all this stuff. Wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to have the problem? Just get a properly sized alternator. Maybe ideally from, FICMRepair.com. I hear they sell alternators. And recognize that alternator companies, they're marketing companies. Like our 240 does 190 at cold idle. Some of our competitors, there's like a 220 that does 110 at idle. Oh my goodness, why would you buy that? So you get what you pay for, but we rep for everybody. So if you got a particular brand that you want to get, we can get you that alternator. But I really do like our line. Of course I do. But there's other lines out there, and we sell those as well. So if you got a favorite, off to the races. But if it can prevent you from killing your FICM, that's a win. And this is a very long-winded video, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks very much. FICMRepair.com. We're all in this together. Keep the comments coming, guys. This is how we all learn together. Thanks.